Today, we're going to cover the top 5 retention marketing myths that are killing your D2C brand's ability to scale, that are eroding your profitability, and they're stopping you from achieving your lifetime value potential of your customers. Nothing riles me up more than these 5 myths, and trust me, I've been around the block a lot in this space. 18 years to be precise, both on the agency side, owning Magnet Monster, my e-commerce Klaviyo-attributed agency for the last 7 years, where we've worked with over 300 D2C brands, including multiple 8- and 9-figure D2C brands, helping them scale, as well as owning my own e-commerce store and working in-house. I've been on every side of the fence here. And if you are adhering to these 5 myths, I can promise you, you're leaving a lot of money on the table and you're also potentially damaging your brand. So without further ado, let's get into them. I'll tell you what they are and what you should be doing differently and break them down and show you the truth. Myth number 1, if revenue is down, increase email frequency to cover the shortfall. This is usually peddled by the CEO or CMO when they're feeling pressure, they're missing a forecast, and they put downward pressure on retention channels to cover the deficit. Here's the truth. This only covers the shortfall in acquisition and papers over the cracks. It doesn't solve the fundamental root cause of the problem, which is ultimately your acquisition is not running efficiently and it's slowed down. Whilst increasing frequency is a valid tactic in the short term to improve revenue and cover this gap, ultimately what you need to remember is you're often on the road to diminishing returns following this strategy. Why is this? Because you will exhaust your list, you will burn through it, and ultimately a lot of the time when you're trying to cover this gap, you're running a lot of discount. And that's front-loading your revenue, it's eroding future profitability, and it's not really solving the problem. In fact, it's causing more in subsequent months, which we'll see creep up. And then who gets blamed? The email agency. So always be wary about increasing email frequency. Now, should you increase email frequency overall? Is it a good strategy to drive more revenue? The truth is, yes, it is. But when you do it is critical. If you take a cohort of new customers coming through and you look at the purchase behavior for a conventional D2C brand, especially if it's in CPG, what you will see is a lot of customers will buy again within the first 0 to 90 days after they initially purchase. This is your opportunity to increase email frequency and target these recipients. Also, because recipients tend to disengage with email as a channel post 90 days, you really do have a critical opportunity in the customer's first 90 days to capitalize on driving that repeat sale. So increasing email frequency is a lever that you can pull for your store, but the key is to time it when the customer is actively in the market looking to purchase again. Myth number 2. The bigger the email list, it correlates to more revenue. Nothing could be further from the truth. If this was true, we would all run sweepstakes and giveaways and just bloat our lists, and it would be really easy to drive revenue from retention channels. Let me tell you a story. I worked with a brand a few years ago who worked with a massive A-list celebrity. They were convinced that this giveaway they ran with this celebrity would lead to a massive amount of revenue by taking the recipients and pushing them into the welcome flow. I was adamant that this was a bad idea. Ultimately, it's the client's business. They determined that we had to do this. And what happened? How many people converted out of the 8,000 we pushed into welcome flow? Let me tell you, 0. Yes, 0. Now, I'm not saying this will apply to everyone, but generally speaking, sweepstakes, giveaways are low quality leads. They don't tend to convert when they go into your database. So what should you do? Ultimately, you need to convert and need to generate leads from high quality, high intent website traffic. And unfortunately, you have to pay for these customers. Everybody wants them. There is no cheap ways to get really high quality, good audience, people on the website who are likely to convert. And ultimately, what we really mean when we say bigger list equals more revenue is more customers that we can retarget will lead to more sustainable revenue from retention channels. This is true, but it's about quality, not quantity of the audience. Myth number 3 is you should suppress people who aren't engaged in your database. Now, I'm sort of backpedaling a little bit here on the previous points, but there is a myth that's pervasive in the D2C ecosystem, and that is that you should suppress customers in your Klaviyo accounts to keep the billing down if they haven't engaged within a certain period of time. Very dangerous, and let me tell you why. Whilst it's true that if you're emailing people who are not engaging, that you can tank your deliverability, you have to remember that a lot of these cohorts of customers who might not be in the general purchase behavior or engage segment lifecycle doesn't mean we should never contact them again. In fact, if you look at purchase behavior over a year, 2 years, you will always see customers do come back after 90 days, after 180 days, even if they're not engaged with your email program. So it doesn't mean you should discard these people altogether, especially if they've purchased from you. Who should you suppress? You should suppress people who subscribe, like the sweepstakes and the people we mentioned in the previous point, who are showing giveaways, who have no intent and never engage with your email program. So if they're not a customer and they've never engaged, yes, fair play, suppress them after a period of time, maybe 90 days or 180 days. But be very wary about suppressing customers, especially if they've purchased more than once. Trust me, I've seen lots of instances over the years where you can win back these people. You're not going to email them as frequently, that's true, but you definitely want to send to them from time to time to try and re-engage them in your database. If you don't, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Myth number 4, discounts destroy brand value. I've got a problem with this. And yes, I'm not saying that discounts are necessary to drive revenue for every D2C brand. But the reality is we are working in a very price sensitive environment. You're kidding yourself if you think your customer doesn't land on your website and cross-check with channels like Amazon and other marketplaces for where they can get the best deal. Ultimately, we are living in a very price sensitive and quite frankly hard economy in many parts of the world, and customers consider the price. And trust me, a lot of people just don't remember anyway that they got a discount. So it's not that they will always only buy when you have a discount. The key, in fact, is to use them strategically at the right places where there's intent. For example, to de-risk the first purchase, in your abandoned cart flow, and also with win-back opportunities where someone might be about to churn. Not all discounts are bad. I remember a few years ago when we signed one of the fastest growing D2C brands in the jewelry space in the UK, and one of the first things the owner said to me on the call is, Adam, we are a discount brand. We've got 80% gross margins. We run discounts very heavily. It's a key part of our strategy. If you're a discount brand, my advice to you is to embrace it. I've seen many instances over the years where discount brands have tried to shed the incentives and then they're wondering year over year why the revenue is down. Be what you are. Myth number 5 is that you should judge an email or retention agency by Klaviyo-attributed revenue and some generic percentage attributed to email as a channel. This is the one that irritates me the most, because the reality is the percentage of revenue that you drive from email or retention channels is highly dependent on what you're selling. As an example, if you are selling supplements, then there is a lot of opportunity, same with consumer packaged goods, to drive repeat sales from retention channels. Why? Because customers tend to buy again every 30, 45, 60, 90 days. If you sell mattresses or furniture where they're typically one-time purchases, you're always going to have a lower percentage of revenue from email because there's not as many opportunities to drive repeat sales. So this is highly correlated to the category that you're actually selling in. And if you have an email marketer coming along, giving you some generic platitudes of how much percentage of revenue you have to drive from these channels, walk away. It's a massive red flag. So they're my 5 top myths. I've got dozens more that I've seen over the years, but let's start with the fundamentals. Let me know, was I too harsh on any of them? Do you agree with them? Drop a comment below. What are the worst myths that you've seen in the space? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll be back again with more content.